Yes, I absolutely need to edit my intro clip without Micah Parsons, but I only have so much time in the day. Welcome back to another episode of Boys in the Zone, Cowboys Nation. Thank you for chilling with me and my guest Zach tonight. Pulse of the Star, I believe. Getting back into it. How you doing tonight, man? And shout yourself out really quick.
I'm doing good, man. I really appreciate you having me on the show. Especially been a long time since you and I talked, so it's been really nice to kind of get back into it. It's posted the star on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok too. It's pretty much just Twitter that I'm getting back active on. So just stepping back into the community, it's exciting, man.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, like you said, a long time since we've actually talked. I think that Zach was actually one of my very first guests on my show, as far as the fan forum episodes go, which is awesome to have him back in here. And this time, one-on-one chat. We're excited because the Cowboys are back. They're playing football, of course. Not to what we were hoping for, which is a 1-0 record, but we battled it out with the Eagles, and that's right now where we're going to start um, with that game. So let's get into it. The Cowboys, tale of two halves for this team. They looked really good in that first half. As far as the offensive side of things go, what impressed you most, Zach, about that offense in that first half, man?
Just the look of comfortability, really. I think it's been kind of name of the game, especially within the first few weeks of the last few seasons, where you have a lot of pre-snap penalties and adjustments, and
Mm.
guys not getting to their targets, and it just feels like there's never any true preparation. And whether that's a tale of Mike McCarthy or not in that staff, it just looked like Schottenheimer really had these guys prepared and fluent right out of the gate. Obviously, I mean, seven drives between the two in the first half, all scoring. So if you put an umbrella over everything, especially in that first half, it was just that they looked comfortable. They looked ready to go, and like they've been playing for 6 weeks already.
Yeah, I think that one of the very most impressive aspects of that offensive game plan was, and I know like we're gonna get into it with the Jalen Carter thing, but just the ability to run the ball against that Philly front. Um, this NFC East has good defensive fronts, whether it's the Commanders, whether it's the Giants, whether it's the Eagles. You have to be able to control the trenches. And Dallas really did good in the inside. Of course, like I mentioned, no Jalen Carter because of the spit gate, whatever that means, whatever that is, whatever. Um, I was very impressed, and that starts with new offensive coordinator Clayton Adams and what he's bringing over from Arizona. Um, you saw that blocking scheme change. You saw guys get out and run. Steele had an amazing block to spring that Miles Sanders huge play, which really should have been a walk-in touchdown, easy as pie, especially from a guy that should be running 4-4. Um, to get chased down by Zach Bond, that hurts. And then we know the result of that drive eventually. But I was so impressed with that run game, and just having that ability to run is really going to help out Dak in the future. And you saw he got more comfortable. He got that swagger to him where he just felt like, hey, I'm going to put it in my spot where only my guys can get it. And we're going to go in here to Philly and we're going to beat them game one. And unfortunately, some untimely drops happened. And the fumble, of course, from Miles Sanders. But overall, a really, really nice showing from that run game and from Dak Prescott. What were your thoughts on the run game specifically? You can talk about the running backs, you can talk about the scheme, you can talk about those trench players individually. What really stood out to you?
Yeah, I think a lot of it actually does start with bringing in Clayton Adams. That when they first made that decision to make him the offensive coordinator, just bringing in a offensive line minded, or of course a previous offensive line coach as an offensive coordinator, that's where it starts. I mean, you have to start with the fundamentals at the trenches, at the line of scrimmage. With the Cowboys, they've the name of their game, especially when Dak Prescott came into this league, was the offensive line, starting with the run and being able to set up the pass. We've seen that a lot of Dak Prescott's success, especially as he's progressed more into a pocket passer over the last few years. The play action is a huge part of his game. You can't do that when you can't run the ball. And so to see them come
Yeah.
out of the gate, not just in typical zone scheme, actually pulling guys, stretching tight ends, and using Lipke across the line of scrimmage, especially on goal line situations. Like, it was really refreshing to see using the athleticism of your offensive lineman and not just relying on some natural strength. Everything is built around that, and so that's just it. Like I said, it's really refreshing to see them kind of go in a different direction. Starting with the offensive line is kind of the core of how they're going to build this offense, and when you look at it, you can tell by the drafting over the last 3 years as well, or over the last 4 years. I mean, the interior of that offensive line is built for success. You saw them do it a decade ago with Frederick and Martin, just bringing in young guys to develop into a core group on the interior of that offensive line. It's how you're going to win right now, and it's going to how you're going to win in the division. You're going to see Dexter Lawrence and of course
Hmm.
Jalen Carter at least once this year, and then guys like Deron Payne 6 times a year. I mean, that's a huge chunk and an important chunk of your schedule that you may have just circumvented because of the way you built this.
Yeah. No, great points. Got to shout out my guy Vince, who is in the building. What up, man? Thank you for dropping in and commenting. Please do leave a like while you're here. Um, Yeah, the Clayton Adams hire was one of those ones I was really excited about because I'm a big James Conner fan. So I often watch Arizona Cardinals games and I draft him on my fantasy leagues and just seeing what he's done with that Arizona Cardinals offensive line and really coaching them up to be better than what they really are. In that scheme, just to pop Connor for big runs, it was one of those things that got me really excited. Now, I was hoping that we would pair that with a back from the draft, but that didn't really happen. Of course, yes, we did get Jadon Blue and we got Phil Maffa later in the draft, but overall, man, I was very impressed by Javonte Williams as well. And I know that the average per run isn't really there for him, but overall, I thought that he ran hard. He had the ball security that Sanders didn't. He just felt like, okay, if we get another back in here that with that similar kind of Zeke to Pollard, 1-2 punch, and maybe that is a blue whenever he does get on the field, but if we get the real home run hitter mixed in with Javonte Williams' ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and the power game, we could have a decently nice running back committee here. Um, Overall, though, I think it really started off with those three interior offensive linemen, though Cooper Beebe, Tyler Smith, and Tyler Booker coming in there and playing some good ball. He struggled
Good
a little
ball.
bit in pass pro, mostly with the stunts and stuff like that, but in the run game, super solid. And I was, I wasn't impressed necessarily because I saw that coming from this guy. He played 3 years out of Alabama. He's seen some dogs that get drafted in the first round, playing in the SEC. But overall, man, I just couldn't be impressed more with how that those three guys up front really gelled. Tyler Guyton came in there, limited practice throughout training camp. Of course, he had the injury and whatnot, played pretty
Yeah.
solid. I know that there's some reps where he just loses because of his hands, and his hands still are not very good, but his feet, his ability to get out there against those speed guys, and, he gave Dak enough time. There was a couple of times, man, where they were this close to getting Dak, but he ripped it. And, we had some big plays and some what should have been big plays as well. Talk about
Yeah.
one of those guys up front, or if there's anybody you want to single out, go ahead.
No, just touching on Guyton, that I mean, obviously everybody it's kind of turned into a meme that basically left hook that he gave in pass pro. That's
That's
I
that
mean that's
boxing
part
we
of the
saw.
hand placement. Yeah, exactly, exactly. In the rain, he was preparing for it, man. But I mean, like
Yeah.
it's funny how that kind of goes hand in hand with the hand placement thing. That there were
Hmm.
actually a couple reps there where you could see him get in a position where he was on the outside of the shoulder pads or on the back of the defender, And last year, you fully would have expected that to be a penalty or for him to just get pile driven back into Dak Prescott. But to actually see him anchor in, especially after the injury and so much time off, and then adjust his hands, go back and put his hands right back into the chest of the defender. Obviously, I
Mhm.
think he feels more comfortable using one hand for control and another to try and move the defender one way or another. Example being that left hook he gave him. But no, I was really happy with Guyton's progression. In fact, I thought he had a better overall performance than Steele on the other side, other than Steele's natural blocking ability.
Yeah, I mean, Steele had a couple really, really nice run blocking reps, but overall, Steele was definitely the weak link out of that line. And um, as a result, some people have even, and we lost Zach here, but I'll keep on talking. Um, some people have even brought up playing Nate Thomas, um, you know, there in place of Steele, or even moving Guyton from that left side, playing Nate Thomas there, and moving Guyton to that right side where he is naturally played at. But you know, I don't necessarily want to mix things up. I think that Steele is a pretty solid offensive tackle. He's not great. We already know what you have in Steele. But overall, I think that I was more than impressed with how they held up against Philly's front. And I know that Philly doesn't really have those top end edge rushers, but what they did have was that mean, angry, powerful inside interior. And I know Jalen Carter didn't play. We can't state that enough, but still thoroughly impressed with them. Victory Formation podcast. Our offense looked different. Some variety in the run game. Absolutely. I think that was just, it was evident from the very first drive using Turpin in those sweeps, um, getting easy completions to CD. I just, the one thing I wish that we would have done better, of course, catch the ball. But the one other thing that I wish that we would have done better from an offensive standpoint is just get some more targets for my guy, George Pickens, because he deserves them. You know, he's one of those guys that is streaky when he starts to feel it. He'll get there. Um, anyways, Zach, Dak Prescott, if you're a box score watcher, you don't know how good that guy played.
No,
Um, he was dotting people up. He should have had a massive game. He should have had probably 2 touchdowns. Like, let's say that CD catches that long ball and walks into the end zone, and then the one to Ferguson. He should have had 2 touchdowns there. At the very least 1. But Dak Prescott, 188 yards, 0 interceptions, no touchdowns, but man, he was just dotting people up. He was throwing missiles. A couple of those drops were just because they were such heaters over the middle to CD
yeah.
and other people. Talk about Dak. Talk about your projections for him the rest of the season, the rest of the way, because we saw 2023 Dak. He was exceptional. Should have won the MVP. 2024 Dak regressed quite a bit. And I think it's mostly a result of Mike McCarthy not being willing to do pre-snap motion and get his guys in the best advantageous situations, but also no help from anybody except for CD Lamb. Now you move on where you have a healthy Ferguson, you have a George Pickens to play opposite. You actually are utilizing Turpin to his skill set. Talk about Dak, what your projections are for him moving forward, and how good he was in this game, man.
Yeah, man, I love it. I love it. I mean, I've been Dak Prescott trained since Mississippi State. Really, I'm an Aggie fan, and so seeing all the hate and all the love that he gets back and forth,
Hmm.
to come out against the defending world champs in Philadelphia, divisional rival, and just not care. I mean, especially with the Spitgate incident and how the way the game started, I was just so impressed and maybe impressed isn't even the right word because we do expect these kinds of things. But again, he was just dialed in completely from quarter one to the final drive. And yes, you're going to continue to see a lot of the hate towards him because of the way that that game ended. But we know why. Don't watch the stat sheet. The guy was putting them exactly where they need to be. And I
Mhm.
attribute it a lot to a lot of the pre-snap motion and the movement that they were doing on offense, not just to recognize coverage, but to actually move the Philadelphia defense around. It's something that you just touched on it. They lacked so much of during Mike McCarthy's coaching era that you have to accept Dak for who he is, right?
Mhm.
We're not going to expect 70-yard bombs, Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson type back and forth up to 50 points, whatever it is. But Dak, how he's developed to be able to manipulate defenses and the accuracy that he has from not only a clean pocket but especially under pressure. You cannot throw this guy off his
Yeah.
game regardless of what you do. He picked right back up off of 2023, and that's where I expect him to move forward this season. I mean, I don't think you're going to have some just special game against Philadelphia in Week 1 for no reason. This is being built to progress into a beautiful season for him. You just got to get your receivers dialed in too, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be conversations in house about George Pickens and his targets, and I mean, we all know the type of character we've seen from George Pickens in the past, and so he's going to try and demand that football. We're going to see what he can do for him as well, but Dak's going to get him there, and he has a core group around him right now that he can work with versus years past. I mean, we felt a little bit of the weight of losing Amari Cooper. They were trying to go by committee with, I mean, bringing in Brandon Cooks, using some practice squad guys, but
Mhm.
to be able to have a legitimate wide receiver duo, what we should expect out of Jake Ferguson in the passing game, although those are questions that we will find out about, over the next couple games.
Yeah.
I expect that game that he had in Philadelphia to be consistent throughout the season.
Yeah, I have a little bit of qualms with this tight end group, man. I like you can say that Jake Ferguson is that guy that brings in this swagger that's, he'll, knock your block off, whatever. And he is improved in the blocking department. But man, this tight end group has to catch the damn ball.
They
Um,
can't.
it is one of the things that irritate me the most. Like, if you want to get paid like a top 10 tight end in this league, you got to catch the ball, man. And I know, like, everybody says, oh, hospital ball over the middle. Dude, you're going to get hit anyways. You might as well hold on to the ball. There's
Yeah.
times where I don't understand that Schoonmaker ball over two defenders, perfect ball from
Uh,
Dak Prescott. How do you drop
yeah.
that?
One of the better
The
passes you've seen from him in a while.
exactly. And the Ferguson one in his breadbasket, the Brevin Span Ford one in his breadbasket. All of those balls should have been caught. You have 3 drops from your tight ends that you can't have. Then you have 4 drops from CeeDee Lamb. I know people say 3, but really 4.
Yeah.
There's another one where he's coming over actually it's the play right before the fumble, I believe,
Hmm.
from Sanders. So really 4 drops from CD, and of course that last one is a very, very hard ball to catch for CD. But at the same time, you've already afforded 3 drops to your team. You got to come up with a big one, buddy.
Yeah,
Um,
and we've seen CD make those catches before. I understand it's hard, you give him grace, but those are the kind of catches that we now expect of him
yeah.
consistently. So
My guy Jeff Hollis coming into the building. What's up, gents? My guy Vince. What's up, Jeff? Shouting out to him. Uh, my biggest, I guess, kind of gripe would be, CD was dropping the balls, and I know that you want to go to your guy in the most critical moment,
yeah,
but man, it hurts not to see more George Pickens down that stretch, because George Pickens, for all that we know about him, he's very, very good in the 50-50 balls, and he can catch stuff that he shouldn't catch. So and I can't even really fault Dak for going, to his man, because that's a guy he has rapport with. He knows what to expect of CD, and CD knows what to expect of himself. Like, CD was, I mean, I wish he was a little bit more critical in the presser afterwards, but overall, he showed it like, hey, I'm gonna get on the jugs. I'm gonna be here after practice working on stuff. Shows leadership
and he was.
mentality. But at the same time, man, this loss isn't just a loss because, one, it's a divisional loss, and one, it's against the team that is going to be in the mix of things that you should have had a tiebreaker against, and you're going to play them again at your house. So
Right.
this was one that you couldn't let slide away, in my opinion. It's really, really I won't say it's like worrisome by any means because I don't think that CD is a guy that drops a lot of balls. But a funny meme I saw was the Quentin Johnston and CD Lamb Freaky Friday meme because
For
Johnston
real.
was actually doing great, 2 touchdowns in that LA Chargers game, catching everything.
Oh, that whole
Um,
that whole Chargers offense was hot. That's for sure.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
but overall, I think that this was going into this. Well, not going into, but after this week, and I know you shouldn't overreact to week ones. It happens all the time. Week one is almost like that fourth preseason game for a lot of teams. They're getting to kind of know their players and kind of figure out schemes and all that stuff again. But based on what I saw this week, I don't see anybody on the NFC that you can't compete with from the
Yeah.
Cowboys perspective. I think that the Niners look like they should have lost that game against the Seahawks. Um, the
That was
Lions
the
looked
fakest comeback
horrible.
drive. Yeah.
The
Yep.
Packers, like, sure, you could say that the Packers are possibly the favorite or a contender now that they have Micah, but I really got to see it from that team. For like, sure, they'll get past the first round and stuff like that, but they're not a team that's gotten any further with Jordan Love, really. Um, and they play in a tough
No.
division. They got to face the Vikings. They got to face an improved Chicago Bears team. Um, you know, the Rams narrowly won their game. The Falcons and the Bucks battled it out. I think realistically, you can compete with any of these teams on the NFC side. Now, the Ravens, the Bills,
Oh yeah.
you'll get blown out by those teams. But making it to the Super Bowl is in the realm of things if you get the right cards in the playoffs. And it starts with winning these games you probably shouldn't in the regular season. So you really let one slip here. Let's hit some of these comments though. Agree 1,000%. We didn't look his way enough. Derpy Entertainment. I'm so glad that GP pretty much sucks. Still waiting for the crash out. Well, okay, all right.
It
Definitely
may
the first
come.
time we truly
It
have
may
some
come.
real leadership with CD. It's nice to see some maturity. Until Jordan Love shows overall consistency, Packers will have moments, but and he's getting that other comment in. But yeah, I just realistically the NFC is wide open, and you know, if you do meet up with one of these division foes, Commanders, and I'll say like the Commanders really they left a lot of points on the field too.
Yeah,
I
they did.
mean, they could have blown out the Giants really if they wanted to, and especially with how Daniels was running. Like he could have ran for a first down damn near every single time that he wanted to. So that's a problem whenever you meet those teams that have the dual threat quarterbacks, because that's what killed you in this game as the Cowboys defense. Your linebackers have to be better. So switching from that offensive side to the defense, what was your most positive aspect from the defense, and what was something that like we've got to figure this out moving forward that you saw?
I think you can take two pretty big positives out of it. First and foremost, I mean, it's hard to ignore the new addition after the departure of Micah Parsons. Kenny Clark's effect on that defensive line was immediate.
Yeah,
Just the attention that he drew from the defensive line in pass rush scenarios. I understand that the rush wasn't really there, but those edges are growing, and to see what Osa Digizua could do one on one, and vice versa when Kenny Clark had attention away from him was fantastic. But most importantly, what did he do in the run game? And his ability to just maneuver between gap to gap is unlike the anything the Cowboys have had in recent years. Osa is fantastic. He's huge, athletic, and can rush the passer, but we've never seen that type of poise in the run game. And to finally have that back on the Cowboys defensive line for the first time in a long time is going to make a huge difference. We saw it in the second half. I mean, I forget Saquon's stat in the second half. It was 8 rushes for 11 yards, I believe.
yeah,
And of course, everybody, it was team football in that second half come the defense, but the interior defensive line really set it up. and made the linebackers' jobs easier. And unfortunately, I think that's what's going to happen moving forward, unless you make some other additions or you start trying out some of your other guys, giving Maurice Luafau a little bit more time to develop, and then giving him the reps I think he deserves. You're
Hmm.
going to have
Hmm.
to rely on your defensive line, and then of course your secondary to just hold it down a little bit to allow your other guys to make plays, because they're not going to do it on their own. The second positive, though, seeing Deron Bland and Trevon Diggs back out there together is phenomenal. Love that. You pray they stay healthy all season, but they performed, to me, exceptionally. I mean, it was nothing crazy, but Jalen Hurts typically is going to put the ball in his own or Saquon's hands to begin with. But to have Devontae and AJ Brown pretty much shut down all game and making Philadelphia rely on whether Jalen Hurts was scrambling or just putting the ball in Saquon's hands. You could see as that started to digress as the game went on, especially after the delay. It felt like Philadelphia really couldn't do anything. A lot of people talk about Cowboys scoring 0 points in the second half, but Philadelphia scored three.
Hmm.
So you don't have a lot to work with other than those veterans in the room. But I do think Kenny Clark and then your guys in the secondary being healthy again, and just the connection that they have over the last 3 seasons, the type of camaraderie they have going into a game, that really paid off there, and I think it showed some flashes that can pay off for bigger games in the future.
Yeah. Jeff, basically an exact echo of what you're saying. Positive, slowing down Barkley, AJ, and Devontae. Negatives, we
Bingo.
didn't spy Hurts. 2 touchdown runs. No one was watching for him. Killed us. Um,
No.
and I gotta throw in honorable mentions here. Upon further review on the CD Lamb drops, he's definitely afraid of hits after the catch. Some of that stuff, I don't think that he's afraid of hits. Like, he's taken some massive hits and still held onto the ball, but
Oh
some of
yeah.
that stuff is kind of phased out a little bit when you're seeing football. So, if they did play a little bit of preseason, does that help negate some of those things? Maybe so. And I'm not the most, your starters need to play preseason guy ever. But just a couple drives here and there can allow those guys to get into a groove and get back into football shape and just get in the rhythm of things. And I mean, it wasn't a problem in the early part of that game, anyways. So he should have had more than enough time to kind of get that stuff out of his system, if it was something that needed to. But I I don't know. I don't know. I won't say that it's a hit after the catch thing that he's afraid of that, but I will say that the problem is he's dropping the ball and he's got to get it cleaned up. I think that that's
Yeah.
the simplest way to put
As
it. Um,
baseline as you can get. Yeah.
exactly. Positives for me on that defensive side of things. One, I thought Marshawn Nealand looked really good. I thought that he was impressive with his power that he played with in the pass rush department. He was great in the run defense. I thought, like you mentioned, with the Kenny Clark, not signing, but trade. Um, hey, say what you want to about this interior defensive line and them stopping the run, but at least for one game, it did hold up pretty well. They played pretty well against Saquon Barkley. Now, Shipley had a couple really nice runs. Barkley had, a few Barkley-esque runs, and Jalen Hurts was really what killed you the most. Um, but overall, I thought that interior, with he and Osa in there, and then the sprinkles of Solomon Thomas was a pretty good rotation. I Man, it seems like Winfrey is on IR now, which is kind of
Yeah.
hurts because I really wanted to see him get in there and kind of mix in with this group. It seems like from all reports, it seems like Mozzie's going to be inactive again next week, which I personally I like because he's not good enough to be a actual player on your team. And I've said this for all offseason when other content creators were lying to you guys and saying Mozzie Smith has stacked practices. It doesn't matter. Like, sure, he's
Correct.
won a few
Yeah.
one-on-one reps, but these are against the backup guys. He's not good enough to play on this team. And the only reason why he made the team is because of that draft capital associated with him. So I'm excited that Schottenheimer understands, like, hey, this guy's not good enough. Like, whatever, if you guys want us to keep him around and see if we can get him stronger or whatever, sure. But overall, he's just not good enough to play. And I love Shotty for that, for saying, hey, your guy's not good enough. He's not going to play.
Yeah.
Um, in
It
regards,
nails down
Go
into
ahead.
the
Yeah.
at least into the culture, the whole culture shift that he had talked about all summer long since the hiring. And a lot of people being skeptical of it because of how we know how the Cowboys can micromanage what a culture really is from a coaching staff.
Hmm.
But to see him actually hammer that down, and not just Mozzie Smith, but with other guys too, just the accountability is incredible. And if you point out any other positives from that defensive line, from some of the reps that you saw Jay Toya take, you can't tell me Mozzie Smith is going to be the better option moving forward as like a fourth
Yeah.
rotational guy on the interior.
Toya as well. Yeah, that's a good shout to Toya. I mean, sometimes Toya did get a little bit, moved back and knocked off of his spots.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
he's a late round draft pick. He's one of those guys that is specifically there for the run stuffing. I think that he'll grow in strength. I think that he's a guy that moving forward you feel good about, and he's getting some meaningful reps against a good Eagles offensive line.
bingo.
One thing I will say is like those pressure numbers that came out for Dallas about like 40% pressure rate or whatever. If you look at Hertz's time to throw, it is like it's like 3.5 seconds to throw. So just because they got pressure on the quarterback doesn't mean anything except for that quarterback was holding the ball until the pressure came because he had all that time and it was looking and the coverage on the back end was great. Um,
Right.
I will say a really big negative for me, and I think that it kind of got solved a little bit in the second half was Eberflus's um, just being really obstinate about actually using blitzes and dialing up pressure. He's a guy that has not been accustomed to doing that in the past, and that's a big thing that I've been critical about him for throughout this whole process of him being the DC because if he's not willing to dial up pressure, it is going to be a long season for the Cowboys. We don't have a Micah Parsons anymore that can, you know, manhandle two guys and still get a pressure or a sack. You're relying on guys to win their one-on-one battles, and more often than not, you're relying on young guys who haven't done it in the past. So
Right.
with that, you've got to be willing to bring five. You've got to show that double mug look up and walk your linebackers up. Those are things you're gonna have to adjust, and we'll see if Eberflus can have an evolution to his coaching like Dan Quinn did coming here, because a lot of what Dan Quinn did with the Seahawks just didn't work. He evolved a little bit, and I mean, he's got a head coaching position because of it. So we'll see with what happens with Eberflus, but I think that I was really critical about that in the first half. Got better in the second half. We need to. Who was it? Jeff. We've got to spy better. That I think that the biggest thing not having overshown is for that spy and the Hurts, the Daniels. If Dart starts to play, those guys are all athletic guys that can extend plays with their legs. So you have got to have a linebacker that can spy, and not only just spy, but actually be good at going and making tackles in the open field. Because it's one thing to identify and be aware of where the quarterback is and okay, I need to go get him. It's a whole nother thing to actually see that and then go make the play. Overshown is that guy. Unfortunately, we don't have him. That's why, as you mentioned, we need Maurice Luafau to get in the game, be that downhill dog for you. And we'll see. And like even like for all of the problems that Donovan Wilson has, maybe there is a look where it's like, hey, take a play out of Dan Quinn's book and give Donovan Wilson some linebacker snaps as a
Yeah.
spy and get Wanye onto
True.
the field. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
something like that could be super easily fixed, but it's all about how stubborn Eberflus wants to be. My guy Stephen Mack in the building. Yo, he says. Um, yeah, I thought that secondary held up really well. I saw a stat, and I don't know who posted this, so apologies. But they played zero man to man coverage. It was all zone coverage from Eberflus and that gang, which I thought was
Yeah.
really interesting. Um, I
I
mean,
saw that too. I mean, I don't know, and that may be just part of what he's accustomed to. Like you said, especially
mhm,
in zone, you're not going to see a ton of pressure brought, especially from
yeah,
like the secondary or the linebacker room. And so that fits into what we've seen from him before. But I mean, there were a few plays that I could have sworn I saw some cover one man. Maybe it
Mhm.
rotated on the back half as the play started. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a very interesting point. I don't know. You can't live and die by Deron Bland playing man coverage or Trevon Diggs playing man coverage, but you got to give those guys one-on-one chances, especially with their ball skills. So it's certainly something to watch moving forward.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that, like, one of those things that I was, aware about, but I didn't see a whole lot of other people talk about was Eberflus was the defensive coordinator for the Colts back when Malik Hooker played there. And during his, first few years, yeah, like, he had some injuries and whatnot, but he was taking the ball away. So if we can get that iteration of Malik Hooker, marry that with Deron Bland and what he can do, marry that with what Diggs can do from taking the ball away perspective, um, that's going to help those pass rushers a lot. Just knowing, like, hey, we've got these guys on the back end that if we just get a little bit of disruption, we could possibly get a turnover and give our
Right.
offense a short field. And if you believe anything of what you saw that offense do with the pre-snap motions, with having CD, with having George Pickens, with having Jake Ferguson out there, if you give them a short field, you feel great about getting points, and not just three. Because I mean, you get it at the 40-yard line, you pick up one first down, you probably have a Brandon Aubrey field goal right there. But I'm
Right.
saying touchdowns, baby. So that's all it takes is just a little bit of motivation from that defensive group, and just knowing, like, hey, we got some dogs on the back end. So if we just disrupt it a little bit, get this guy off of his rhythm a little bit, not allow him to step up in the pocket and rip this thing, that little stuff can just, it can get you turnovers and tip balls in the back end. We'll see. I think that there's some adjustments that need to be made on the defensive side, but overall, I was wildly impressed with how the Cowboys battled the Eagles. They fall short. 20-24 is the official score at the end of it, I believe. Um, and I'm impressed. Now, with that being said, Zach, what is your outlook on the rest of the season, man? Do you feel better about this team moving forward? Do you feel, wow, this offense really impressed, but there's really big holes on the defensive end still, and I don't know if they will be able to hold up the longer this thing goes on. Where are you at, man?
I can most certainly say I feel a lot better about the season moving forward. I mean, before game one, obviously a lot of the chaos and the drama, Michael Parsons trade, all this, it really seemed like you were primed for some special plays on offense, and then that's about it. Maybe a 7 to 9 win team. It's not that I expect them to go a lot further than that now after one showing. But
Hmm.
there is an aspect to it where seeing them again against the defending world champs in Philadelphia in that environment, and with the pieces they had, performed the way that they did, that I can see these guys competing. And you mentioned it, you know, uh, just earlier about the NFC and the competition after watching the rest of the games week one. There's not really this heavyweight team that you'll bout with. It's just a few good teams and a few bad teams.
Hmm.
It's pretty much the same groups of teams from the last couple of years that we've seen the Cowboys compete with before, with a lot of these same guys. You change things and you adapt in your scheme, especially defensively, you might have something there. I do think the Cowboys, at the end of the day, regardless of what they do on defense, are going to have to live and die by Dak Prescott getting the ball out to his guys. You can't necessarily win a Super Bowl by Dak Prescott throwing 40, 45 times a game. There's going to have to be adjustments made. As far as the defensive side of the ball, I think that's where it's going to get them. I mean, even if they do go on to win and impress for uh, 10, 11 wins this season, come playoff time, what is this linebacker group going to look like? Obviously, Luafau could have more reps, overshown, hopefully back and healthy on the back half of the season. So it's not that my win loss total expectations changed too much. I just do feel excited about what this team can turn into offensively, and then what guys have to prove with chips on their shoulders defensively. So many
Mhm.
young guys off of the edge. You mentioned how much the pressure on quarterbacks can affect the guys in the secondary, and so much ball hawking skill across that group in the backfield that maybe let these edge rushers loose and have a little bit of fun on see if they can figure something out on how to help their secondary. But it's going to start with Eberflus on that side. Period. He's going to have to draw something up where I mean, too many times in that first half we saw Jalen Hurts sitting there with four rushers. Dante Fowler doing like three spin moves on one guy and can't get around him. I just, it's tiresome. It's exhausting to watch it. But
Azaraku was spamming spins too early in that game too.
yeah, it was tough to watch at times for sure. But there's promise there. You mentioned Nealand. His power off of the edge is certainly it's going to help in the run game, but certainly that'll develop as the season goes on. So
Yeah.
we'll have some to see, but like I said, my expectations for the season, I'm excited. I'm excited to see the offense grow. But yeah, I think this is still a 9 to 10 win team until proven otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, I said about that range as well, going into the season. If you got the best version of Dak, I think that Dak can just win you games that you shouldn't. But
Yeah,
like you mentioned, Eberflus has got to be willing to adjust course during the games, figure stuff out. Whether it's like I said, taking a Donovan Wilson and kind of supplementing your loss of Overshown with a downhill player that can move fast and move free and pretty solid in open field tackling. If you could do that and then get Wanye on the back end, I think that that could be advantageous for you. Waiting for the return of arms from Overshown. I know Steven, let me pull up his comment really quick, waiting for 4 to 6 weeks before we, where we can get healthier and before it's telling. I think all of that is
very true.
huge. And we also do have one of the best kickers in the league. I know, like, for all of how good he really is, he doesn't get enough talk when it comes to shows like this. Like, he's going to win you games you probably shouldn't just because of that leg and just because of the ability to, you know, get the ball to 35 and only have to get, 2 first downs at the end of a half to get a kickoff. That's huge for your team, and that's an extra 3 points that you can have in the back of your pocket at any time, for the most part. So, um,
Yeah,
that's going to be a big factor. And overall, I'm not adjusting my win total because the Cowboys didn't really win last week. They
right.
sure, like, we can talk about these moral victories and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't have a 1-0, you're 0-1 and you still lost the game. So, sucks, but here's the saving grace. Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Chiefs didn't look very good. We'll see what happens with that. But I believe that is an Arrowhead, so hopefully they can steal one against the Eagles.
They
Um,
might have Worthy back too. I mean, playing into
yeah,
brace is apparently what they're saying.
we'll
I mean,
see.
you know what that offense can do.
Yeah, I'm kind of convinced that Kelsey's, he's mad about the targets. He did that on purpose so he can continue with what he does. We'll
100%.
see. Um, no, but Worthy, hopefully he can get back, and hopefully the Chiefs, can steal one from the Eagles, and then the Packers. Like, do you root for the Packers because obviously you have their draft picks, or do you not? Of course, as a divisional foe, you got to root against the Commanders, in my opinion. Hopefully, you can get everybody back to 1-1 in this division, except for the lowly Giants after we whoop them again for what would that be? Dak's 13th, 14th straight victory, something
I
along
think
those lines.
14. He went 0-2 his rookie season, and then it's just been lights out since. So
Yeah. So hopefully Dak can do that, and hopefully we do see Russell Wilson, because if we see Russ, I believe that this secondary is going to get a few interceptions on him, and I their offensive line is bad. So I think
yeah,
that this is one of those times where we can actually kind of get them in those third and longs, and then release some of those Ezrakus, the Fowlers, and Fowler was another guy. He's got to have a bounce back game. His open field. Just being um keyed in on what he's supposed to do and not overextend himself was bad. He's got to have a bounce back game, or if he doesn't, I'm willing to give less snaps to him. I don't care about the money associated with him. Give Nealon more. Give Ezeraku some more because Ezeraku is actually building towards your future with him, whereas Fowler is more of that rental player. So, and then
Yeah.
Sam Williams, of course, we'll see with what happens with him. Um, Overall, I like the prospects of this Giants team going against the Cowboys. Are we playing at home?
Yes, it is at home. It is in
It's a home
Arlington.
game. Okay.
Yep, noon game, noon slate. So
Oh,
expect the curtains to be up at all
good call
times.
from Steven here. He says, "Get James Houston in there." Yeah, James Houston was one of those guys that flashed during preseason, but also during the game. Late in that game, he
He
was
did.
one of the biggest reasons why we were actually starting to get actual pressure on Jalen Hurts and not just those, pressures that he was holding the ball for forever.
Yeah,
So yeah, James
penetrating in the
Houston as well.
backfield too in the run game. I mean, with what they
Hmm.
had going with Saquon in the first half, yeah, you don't expect that from him, but he's had experience in this league already versus some of these other guys. So if you're going experience for experience with Fowler, you brought Fowler in here to rush the passer. I mean, all things given, he's not here to stop the run or set the edge. He's here to rush the passer, and he couldn't even do that. So yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely, I love James Houston what he showed.
All right, rapid fire, quick grades on these position groups. We'll start with the quarterback.
That's A plus. I
I'm
don't
gonna
care
go with
about
the
incompletions drops. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the A for Dak. I just still hold out hope that he can use his legs a little bit more. I know it's not him anymore, but I'm gonna go with an A for Dak. The running back group as a whole.
um, Miles Sanders makes this incredibly hard. I'll say B minus just because I am impressed with Javante Williams being able to at least show a little bit of that power that we were used to from him in years past. But Miles Sanders and some of the decision making roster wise in that room brings it down a little bit. So I'm going to say B minus on
I'm gonna say a C plus for the running back group. I thought that they were good enough, but a lot of what they did was the result of the offensive lines bringing them for bigger gains than they should have. And obviously, you want that for your team. Miles Sanders had one of the strangest runs where it was a 0 yard gain where he should have just cut it up, or not even cut it, just take the
that.
hole, but I decided to try to bounce it outside. He needs to be cut. Like he doesn't know how to cut, so just cut him off of
Yeah,
the team
right.
and play Jaden Blue, please, for the love of
Show
God.
him how to cut.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Our wide receivers.
Um, Man, that's tough. First half was just beautiful with them.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I mean, it was like two separate games, especially after that, after the rain delay. So, I'll say a B for them as well, kind of like the running back group. You, it's hard to grade the whole room when it was really just the CD show catching and dropping the ball.
Hmm.
But you when you look at you throw Ferguson in there and you throw Schoonmaker in there, there's just a lot of food left on the plate, a lot of meat left on the bone with them in that game. So yeah, B might be a little bit generous. I still think Pickens had a nice game drawing attention one on one, or at least some of the PI looks that Dak tried to get with him in that game. CD
Hmm.
still had a good, efficient game to start, so I'll give a B to that group as well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna ride with a B as well for the receiver group. I think that you can look at the lower guys on the depth chart. The Jalen Tolbert's just why are you on the team, man? You can't even block out there whenever your number's called. Turpin, I thought played pretty well for what he was asked to do with the end rounds, with some pretty good little drag routes over the middle. Pickens, obviously, his impact just allowing that coverage to be shifted his way so CD can really eat inside the slot is huge. The grade gets taken down mostly because of the drops, like you mentioned. If we're throwing the tight end group here with the receivers as well, yeah, I think that you could say a B. I think the drops from the tight ends are worrisome, and it's kind of been a problem that a lot of people haven't really mentioned in the past. But you got to from your top three tight ends, you have a drop amongst all of them, and that just cannot happen. You got to figure out the dropsies because one thing that's really held back the Packers, we mentioned them earlier, is their drop problems with their wide receivers. So you can't have the dropsies. Offensive line.
I'll say an A. I'll say an A. I think there's a lot of progression to be had with that group, and that's probably what's inflating my score a little bit. but simply just who they played and how physical they were. We're not used to using the word physical with the Dallas Cowboys, especially in the trenches. So just to see like
Mhm.
this kind of molded interior offensive line, like we talked about, to see some of the progression on the edges with Tyler Guyton, Steele, you know what he's going to do in the run game. We can, I mean, that's a different story for the different time about whether Steele is up to his pay grade or not. But as a whole, I mean, that's a solid unit. That's a sound unit that's looking to move bodies, not just downfield, but to spring things open for the running backs in the way that they're schemed up. And I think they did it beautifully. So I do give them an A. I think they performed well.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with an A minus. I thought that some of the pass rush stuff wasn't quite like the bookends need to be better, but the interior
Yep.
was really good. Of course, no Jalen Carter. We got to mention that because he
That's
is
true.
that special player. But overall, A minus. You mentioned a lot of the big points. Um, we'll get coaching in here in the middle of these two groups from offense to defense. What was your grade on the coaching overall?
Um, if we're splitting it like into three, and I guess you can't really on the offensive side because Schottenheimer's still calling the plays. Adams is there to help scheme things up. But
Hmm.
as far as Schottenheimer as a whole, you couldn't have had really a better coaching debut than he had, especially with the microscope that he was under since he got hired.
Hmm.
Just like I mentioned at the very beginning, to bring these guys in here sound, collected, and ready to go, like they've been playing for weeks already, was just a beautiful thing. But you do have to separate Eberflus from some of that talk and understand that it's week one, right? It's first look of actual meaningful game action. So
Hmm.
we don't know if Eberflus is going to adjust or not. But for Schottenheimer, I'll give an A all day. I thought it was beautiful. As far as Eberflus goes, I mean, it's a C for me. I think the second half was. You could say a C plus because of the run fits in the second half. I think the linebackers played a little bit better in the run game, especially after the delay. But as far as scheming things up to try and pressure someone like Jalen Hurts or contain him at least after him going nuts on you to begin with,
Hmm.
it didn't seem like there was much discussion there from him. So it's going to have to be a C for me on Eberflus.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a B plus as the for the coaching overall. I think that,
Yeah,
like you mentioned, Schottenheimer, uh, really, really good game from an offensive perspective, and him just dialing up the right plays. His clock management was good. His mixing in of the run game and then the play action, the pre-snap motion stuff, really, really good from him. Special teams group played really well. I thought
yeah,
that you really couldn't ask for anything more from that group. I thought that they, um, covered defensively on our kickoffs and stuff like that really well. I thought from our kick returns and whatnot, there was a couple of times where I wished that it was always Turpin back there. I think one time it was somebody else, and I can't even remember who it was. I want to say it was like Miles Sanders or something like that back there at one
it's the
point, which
last
I
person we need.
yeah, exactly. So if I'm being really nitpicky about that group, I'd say that. But overall, what brings down the grade for me was the Eberflus thing. But I will mention, um, Stephen Mag brings this up. I was glad to see some second half adjustments for once, and that's true. I
Yeah,
think that Zimmer, I, you know, he didn't adjust enough last year, in my opinion. I thought that he kind of took it as just a paycheck and didn't really see much more to that DC job
probably.
than that. So I think that Eberflus is going to get more into adjustments. I just hope that he can marry that with putting his players in the best spots for them to succeed because you do have some ball hawks in the back end that can get takeaways if you allow them to play with the pass rush getting pressure. That's all hinged upon the pass rush getting pressure. If you're sending four constantly, it's a mismatch. There's five offensive linemen, and if they want to keep a tight end there to chip block or whatever delayed route, or whatever it is, that's even more of a mismatch. So you got to figure out how to use that delayed pressure or the simulated pressure or the stunts or whatever it is to get more pressure. You got to figure that out. Um, Going to the defensive side, let's go with just the defensive line as a group, as a whole, defensive ends, defensive interior, all of that as one group.
I'll say a B, and that's basically just midline for me. The interior at an A minus level for me, and then the edges at a C. So at an overall group being a B for me seems right, just because there were a lot of positives to take away. Like we touched on the interior. Kenny Clark is exactly who we thought he would be coming in here. People had questions about the injury last year and his aging. Was that why he had a down year last year? I think there's a lot of points to Kenny Clark's year in Green Bay last year that brought him down a little bit. Fresh start. They bring you in here and ask you to do one thing, and that's to help with the run game. Not to mention
Hmm.
his pass rush skills already. So that I think they showed to be a sound group for coming in here. What, a week ago after the trade? He knew nothing about it, and to be able to mesh with guys like Osa and even Jay Toya, rookie, Solomon Thomas with his veteran presence in there. That was really nice to see. I thought the edges were exactly who we thought they were too, and not necessarily in a positive way, but you have your young guys mixed in with aging
Hmm.
vets that are kind of brought in here to do one thing.
Oh, I think that you muted your mic there at the tail end of that, Zach. No, I'll start with what I think though, as I'll give that group like a B minus. I thought that the edges, they're young guys, they're getting in there, they're trying to do the best that they can. They didn't provide a whole lot of pressure, but it's at least, optimism there with those young guys from the interior. I thought that Kenny Clark was really good. I thought that Osa was getting immense amounts of pressure against
Yeah.
legit guys in there in the middle for the Eagles. And I know that they started a guy that had never actually started either, and Tyler Steen, I believe his name is. Um, but yeah, I thought that he was really good. Kenny Clark was really good. Toya, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, and then Solomon Thomas. Really, really impressed by a defensive tackle group that hadn't been a strength of this team, coming out here and putting together a pretty good game against Saquon Barkley. Moving on to the linebackers, I'll start here. I'm going to just give them a straight D. I thought that they were bad in a lot of aspects. I thought that coverage wise, they were pretty decent, pretty solid over the middle. Now there was times where it's just like, how is Goddard still routing you up? I mean, Goddard is one of those guys. Like, I know that he has a name attached to him, but he's not the player he once was. Um, and that's kind of one of those things where you've got to figure out. Um, you got to figure out getting a guy in there that can actually cover from that linebacker position. Now, Sanborn better than Murray. I thought it was so strange that Murray didn't play any preseason. I don't understand that. He's a guy that has not been good in his career ever. He's been underwhelming based on where he was drafted, and kind of just one of those things, man. You've got to get more reps too. Um, I mean, I would even almost rather see Damone Clark a little bit, or James out there. Um, and of course, Leofau is the main name that needs to be mentioned there. Sanborn, not as much of a worry, but overall, that linebacker group was just bad as far as the quarterback contain and going up there and making tackles.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you on a D for that linebacker group. There's not much to take away from it other than that they didn't really build on it. I mean, I know Eberflus brings Sanborn in for the familiarity, and you already have some young guys in place like Luafau and Clark, but we kind of know who Damone Clark is at this point. Luafau, we got a good look at him, and you just unless you're going to make adjustments, you want to put real athletes on the field. And I guess the sore thumb in there is Kenneth Murray, and not. I mean, you made a great point in him not having many reps or much live action moving into the beginning of the season. So to see that as the first product on the field was discouraging, but we'll see how it plays out in week 2 against a weak Giants offense.
Yeah. And then the secondary as a whole, I thought that the back end, everything like that, held up amazingly. You could be nitpicky and say that you want them to tackle better, but overall, from the coverage aspect of everything, I thought that they were an A plus. They played a whole lot of zone, which is a little bit easier to hold up and cover your guys just because you're playing spots rather than a man. But I thought they were really good. They shut down Devontae Smith. They shut down AJ Brown, and really the only big catch was the result of a really really nice thrown ball from Jalen Hurts to Dotson over the top. I think that Elam even had a really nice game despite that play. He was in position to make the play. It's just a better throw. So.
Yeah, it's a throw that a lot of people will dog on Hurts for not usually making. The guy does have the arm for it. It's once in a blue moon, but you can't take that as your overall or at least your biggest takeaway from that secondary. It was a beautiful showing from them. You got I thought a little bit more encouragement from Bland and Diggs, just the fact that there wasn't not a lot of man to man, if any man to man, like we talked about at all, but just to see them not only back in action, but to not, I guess, forcing themselves into the area of the ball as much as they have been in the past. Obviously, that can force takeaways, but they were just a little bit more poised with their guys, especially with two powerhouse wide receivers on either side. They did a fantastic job. Elam was more of a surprise to me than anything. I don't know if it was the same to you. It's not like I watched him down for down over in Buffalo, but from the looks of it, there wasn't much expectation out of the trade just to get another young body in there, especially with all the injuries they had had. So to have Elam be just as sticky in that coverage as the other guys were was encouraging. And I would expect the exact same thing moving forward.
Yeah. Zach, I don't know. Your mic is kind of all over the place. If you want to drop out really quick and then try to come back, might fix it. But C Teal says, yeah, too soon to really tell. Strange game with ejections and weather delays and all that stuff. But he's kind of predicting third in the division still. Fringe wild card if CD can catch the ball. Shout out to my guy C Teal for jumping into the chat. Guys, if you're still here, if you have not, please do leave a like. It's completely free. Subscribe to my channel. It's completely free. It just allows you to get Cowboys content and just allows us or allows you to chill with us and talk ball. And it's always fun to have people in here and commenting and showing love. Let's jump into that Giants game though. Obviously, the home opener against the Giants team that did not look good. They kind of held in there against the Commanders and all of that stuff. Liked fly, Eagles fly. Oh, so C Teal, he's an Eagles fan. We'll see. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, home opener against the Giants. They were a team that kind of stuck with the Commanders more than I kind of anticipated. But overall, man, it's just there's one thing about that team that scares you, and it's that pass rush from Kayvon Thibodeau, from Brian Burns, from why am I forgetting? Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence in the middle. Those are the saving grace of that team. Of course, they have Malik Neighbors, but really nothing else scares you on that offense. Their offensive line is abysmal. Russell Wilson is a shell of himself. I think this should be that, okay, wow, the Cowboys can play type of a game where we're dropping a 30 bomb, where we're dropping a 40 bomb if you get the protection. We were wildly impressed with the protection of the Cowboys, and let me just remove him from the screen for right now. We were wildly impressed with how the Cowboys offensive line actually worked in that game against the Eagles. And I know no Jalen Carter, of course, but it really was impressive. So if you can hold, sorry, Zach, I thought you were ready. If you can hold, that Giants offensive pass rush or defensive pass rush in check, I think that you're going to see the best version of this Cowboys defense or offense on Sunday, because realistically, I mean, we've got matchup problems for this Giants secondary. They don't have anybody that can cover CD. They don't have anybody that can cover George Pickens. They don't have anybody that can cover Jake Ferguson. So I just see that this being the game that really shows how good this offense can be. We'll see a few touchdowns from Dak. We'll see some nice runs from these running backs. Hopefully, Jaden Blue can get in there. But overall, I am anticipating a win. And like we kind of mentioned earlier, this will be 13, 14 straight for Dak Prescott if he gets in there and does what he's accustomed to doing against this team. Zach, you ready to go again? Okay, I guess that's a no. Yeah, so if I had to put and I'm not going to break down a whole lot of Giants players right now, just because we have went a little bit long on the other stuff. But realistically, I think that I what do I want to go with? 33 to like 13, maybe like a 13, 33 to 13, 16, something like that. We'll see. I think that it realistically is in the realm of possibilities for this Giants team to keep it close, but home opener, Cowboys fans should be excited. Dak Prescott playing how he did last week against even a worse secondary, comparable pass rush, probably a better pass rush from the ends. So you got to have a really good game from Tyler Guyton and Steele on the edges, but I don't see a realm of possibility with this team losing, and I know that's probably going to come back to bite me. But overall, I've really liked what I saw from the Cowboys on Thursday night, and hopefully that's paired with a Commanders loss and an Eagles loss. I know C Teal is in the building. He says "Fly Eagles fly," and so he wants to see an Eagles win. And truthfully, I hate the Chiefs, so it wouldn't be the worst thing if the Eagles won. But obviously, always got to root against your division foes. So we will see with that 33. Do I want to give them an extra field goal? Graham Gano, he's a solid kicker. I'm gonna say 33 to 13 or 16, with some type of garbage, touchdown or 3 points or something like that. My guy Zach is still having problems with his connection, so I don't know that we will get him. Let me pull this back up. I don't even think this is him. Yeah. I don't think that we're going to get his thoughts on that. But overall, guys, if you did come kick it with me tonight, I really do appreciate it. Appreciate my guy C Teal for liking the video as well. It means a lot. Oh, Zach might be back. We might be able to get Zach's thoughts before we call it a close. Welcome back. Are you here? Oh, maybe not. You can't hear anything? No worries, man. Hold up a W if you think the Cowboys are going to beat the Giants. Oh, he can't hear me, apparently. I thought he was saying I couldn't hear him or something like that, or the mic wasn't working. No worries. We'll take Zach down. Hey, guys, if you did come chill with us, I really do appreciate it. I thank everybody that comes through here and not only just comes and watches the show, but also comments on the show, likes the video, sends it to people. Always a blessing to have people in the chat talking. And I really do gotta thank Zach for coming on. Of course, having the internet connection problems right now. But if you guys could, please do go follow that guy on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Pulse of the Star. And then check out his show. He's going to be dropping some content again for the first time in a long while, really, getting on here and talking Cowboys ball on his YouTube channel as well, I believe, which is also Pulse of the Star. So, yeah, I think with that, we're going to wrap it up. Unfortunately, Zach couldn't get back on, but yeah, Cowboys W. It sounds so sweet, and we got to have it Sunday. Peace.